The largest margin of victory in Week 7 here at InSports in Trumbull, Connecticut was 16 points, and that was by the team getting their first win, the last team to get their first win. Shout out to Above the Rim. No winless team this season. Tyler Feldman behind the camera. That might be the first time there isn't a winless team. He's not communicating. Lovely Lenny Rich training shirt, by the way. Shout out Brad Seaman. We'll get to the game of the week in a second, where everyone on Instagram story was wrong on who they picked to win. This is the Week 7 postgame show. Good God, let's do the names. Mike, Darren, Justin, Sean, and Brendan. It's only been 7 weeks. I should know their names by now. I'm Joey, Tyler Feldman, and the weekly rebound behind the camera. Well, half of the weekly rebound. Greg Horn is MIA, and I get a fist pump from Connor Sauer. All right, so we'll start with that game. Above the Rim, 68-52 takedown, Jays, trays, and fadeaways, and we have a lot to talk about with them, I think. I mean, we haven't had much to talk about to date about them, but what did they do today that was different?
I mean, they definitely played their best game of the year. It was clear from the beginning. They pretty much dominated Jays trays. Eric Winley at 27 points, 63% from the field, and they just clicked as a team today, which they haven't been doing all season.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. They definitely just clicked as a team a lot more. Yeah, as you said, Eric Winley had a big game. Purcell Boyd had a big game as well, and Eddie Caesar. That's kind of, at least from my eyes, they're big three per se, and they all performed a lot better than they have in the past, and they were able to execute pretty well.
You over there too?
Yeah, they definitely played a good game. Like these guys said, Eric Winley, 27 points, only one three-pointer made. But I think it was more of the Jays and their bad game. Eddie Giovanni, who's usually their top scorer, he only had 10 tonight. Joe Nemchek, he had a good game, but besides his scoring, there wasn't no one else producing.
Usually it takes both of them for the Jays to be successful, right? Nemchek and Giovanni. But when those guys are struggling, and then you get some shooting from above the rim, I definitely wanted to touch on them a little bit. But you guys kind of summed it up. And now, big first win. We clearly did our homework. I don't know who they play next week above the rim, but hopefully they can make it 2 in a row. And now Jays, trays, and fadeaways falls to 2 and 5. They're in that bunch of 2 and 5 teams. And I mean, when you come in and play a winless team, you're expecting to win. You're expecting to be in the game, and to be the largest margin from Week 7. They have some stuff to figure out for sure. And just their body language after the game wasn't great. So we'll see. They get a week off, as everyone does. So that's a big deal. And we'll see how they respond next week. Let's get to the game of the week. Run TMC and Team Moose, a pair of 5-1 teams. 67-61, Run TMC comes away with the win. No Will Hudson, no Reggie Stewart, and I think Team Moose had most of their guys. And it was, like I mentioned in the interview, hot shooting, some struggling at the rim, I think, for Team Moose that kind of caught them off guard. And you guys can definitely touch on all that. But, what did Team Moose not do? What did TMC do tonight that surprised you?
Well, I thought Run TMC was great defensively tonight, especially Kaywan Bynum down low on Mechanic, 6'5", whatever, however tall he is. I think he probably had his worst game of the year, but Singleton really ran it for you guys tonight. I thought he did a great job distributing and scoring when he needed to, so that was a big one for you guys.
He was adamant in saying that he's still having an off season, and he loves that you guys are saying he's having an off season when he just exploded tonight in a game that he knew he had to do that coming in, knowing Reggie wasn't going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I picked Run TMC to lose. I was very positive about that. Clearly, I was wrong. But yeah, I mean, we forget how good of a player Eric Singleton is, and he was saying that after the game, like, he's really having a down season only because he has so much talent around him. And he's a guy that I would not want to get hot or get going, and tonight could have been something for him to get going now and for him to just keep rolling with, which can make Run TMC even scarier.
Before we get to the big picture stuff, and there was another matchup of top 4 teams, Singleton can always get to the rim, and I think I can get a lot of head shakes on that. He's super quick. When he's making the outside shot like he was tonight, that unlocks another part of his game, because then inside-out combination for him is very hard to stop. Speaking of that other matchup, Shocker City and the Throne, some people wanted that to be the game of the week. It also lived up to the hype. Shocker City remains undefeated, 73-68. The Throne without Russ Payton once again, hearing things that he may be done for the year with an injury. So there are 3 losses now. Throne has 3 losses. We'll get to some standing stuff as the playoffs are approaching, but all their losses without Russ Payton, and now if he's done, they don't have that to fall back on necessarily, like, oh, when Russ comes back, we'll be okay. Shocker City, no Terrell Vargas, but Mike Davis, Carmine Santarelli continue to carry the load for them. in that big time matchup, what'd you guys like?
Mike Davis really got it going for them in the first half. 25 points tonight. Got up to a hot start. Then the Throne came back a bunch in that second half, and Devon Pratt really stepped up, made a few big threes and a few big stops defensively. I think he's really the heart and soul of that team. Maybe not the best player, but he's very talkative, always talking on defense, so he's big for them.
Yeah, I mean, the Throne really showed a lot. They surprised me. They were in the game the entire time. They never let the game get out of hand. You know, every time they needed a big shot, it seemed like they were hitting that. It was really high pace, high intensity type game, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
For sure. And then speaking of the other team in the top 5 right now in the standings, the Rim Breakers improved to 6-1, take down the Blue Devils 71-57 on court 2 at 10 o'clock. It seemed like the Rim Breakers were in control most of the game. Was that the case? I was a little busy over here, but
quite the contrary.
All right.
They were down the entire game. Sorry, Joey. I know you were definitely putting all your energy into the game, which was as expected. But the Rim Breakers were down the entire game. They only went up for the first time with 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Zeke Howard was kind of a spark, and then Chris Leak and Joe McLeese, two of their top guys, who finished with 17 points and 15 points respectively, kind of kept it going for them in the fourth quarter. But as Connor said, he was next to me in the game. They're a fourth quarter team. They kind of play around with their opponents and then finish them off.
Who else was over there?
Yeah, they
Hold on, no. So, what did the Blue Devils do to get that lead? I'm going to put you right on the spot. And so kind of break down why they were able to build that lead and then what happened.
They were just playing, their pace was way too fast for the Rim Breakers, who were struggling making shots. But then they got it fixed in the second half. They went on a 31-12 run, which in the fourth quarter, which helped put away the Blue Devils.
Nice. So, speaking of runs, huge run for Dinner Served. They were up a lot, 81-68. They end up winning, taking down the Head Honchos to improve to 2-5, and now have the same record as the Head Honchos. But they were up 20, and Head Honchos almost came all the way back. Kind of a matchup of more even teams, and we're kind of now seeing that kind of level of the standing starting to shake itself out. But what did you guys see from Dinner Served tonight?
Well, I mean, yeah, if I want to keep talking here, their duo of Matt Tarasi and Kyle Caniglio, I think first we got in Butcher's name. They combined for 44 points. They were both great, and the Head Honchos, I guess, on their end, Brett Cody, he didn't play as well as he usually does, and Danny Bartoli, after a 29-point game last week, he only finished with 8 points, so definitely a drop-off for them, but Dinner Served, that duo was very good to lead them in the right direction.
That's about it, right? That one. And, two even teams like that, we'll see how that impacts the playoff seeding for sure as they're next to each other in the standings right now. Two other teams right next to each other coming in, Sportslook and Nothing Easy, both 2-4 coming in. Nothing Easy takes down Sportslook again, only 4 guys. They win 83-72 though. So Sportslook able to keep it close for much of the game, but too much, I think, depth and too much. You guys are hitting some shots today, especially our very own. Had a couple sheesh moments out there, hitting some threes he wasn't expecting to go in. But what'd you guys do well today? We'll save you for a second. Someone else want to chime in on Nothing Easy? Darren?
Well,
Sounds good.
so these guys started off the game on a 13-0 run. He had about 8 points by himself, an 8-0 run by himself. You know, Sportslook didn't score their first points until about 4 minutes left in the quarter. So it was very much the depth. Sportslook only had 4 players playing, so you know, I think they just fatigue set in after a while, and they just couldn't keep up.
Yeah, our boy Buddy Mike had 25 points, 10 rebounds, and Brian Lilly was big tonight with 29 points. It's a nice win for Nothing Easy over a Sportslook team who never seems to have a full roster. When they do, I think they won the only time they did. So, but nice win for Nothing Easy.
What do you guys, as the winning team today, now 3-4, what do you want to take from this game and build on into next weekend, the playoffs?
Just the momentum, honestly. I mean, we had guys hit a lot of shots, like Brian Lilly, as you said, he was on fire, wasn't missing. Joey Capo had another big game. So when we're hitting shots, I mean, we're big on like riding the momentum, riding the wave, and same thing when things aren't going well. So when shots are going in, it's good for Nothing Easy.
And definitely, last but not least, Young Kings and Nick Strong. So Young Kings 2-4 coming in, Nick Strong 4-2. They do get the win, their 5th win on the season, and they're hanging around. Now 5-2. They're going to be in that mix now. This was one of those games they had to have to not kind of be in 6th seed by themselves. 64-59 they win. How many times have we said this season the Young Kings in a close game and just one or two plays don't go their way, whether that's Dante fouling out, whether, just some crazy calls on that end, whether it's them missing some shots and the other team making some plays, but they've been in a ton of close games. They might be the best 2-5 team we have this season. So what did Nick Strong do today to get the win?
Nick Strong's defense, again, definitely was the story of the game. They held the Young Kings to 21% from three and under 40% from the field goal. They held both Miles Raymond and Eddie Whitman to under 20 points, the first time any team has done so this season. So, their defense really won the game for them again.
Yeah, they were never out of the game. Every time Nick Strong went up, they would hit a big bucket. And then next thing you know, it's a 3-point game with a minute left, and everyone's watching all of a sudden. But I'm interested to see how Nick Strong plays against, now that they're a 5-2 team.
Yep.
Stick them against one of their fellow 5-2 matchups, say a Team Moose. And I'm interested to see how they play with that.
Exactly. So now they have the same record as Team Moose. So we have Shocker City 7-0, Run TMC 6-1, Rimbreaker 6-1, who won't play. So that'll come down to an RPI tiebreaker if they finish with the same record. Team Moose 5-2, and now Nick Strong 5-2, and the Throne at 4-3. So there's 6 teams right there quickly, one word or less, meaning just say the team name. What team do you think has the best chance to make a deep run from that group? Probably should leave Shocker City out of that. So what team besides Shocker City do you like the best, the most to make a run? The best? Which team? Give me a team.
I would say the Throne.
Thanks for fixing my English. Yeah, nice. The Throne? Okay.
Yeah.
Team Moose.
I'm going to go Rimbreakers.
Team Moose.
I like the rim breakers too.
Run TMC was in that group. Good job, guys. That's how you do the post-game show. That's it for week 7. I know we didn't have our guys today, tonight, but whatever. All right, I'm now over this. Week 7 post-game show. We'll have top plays, power rankings. TMC's moving up. I'll promise you that. And Connor and the guys behind the camera, more weekly rebound. Greg Horn got a name drop. And Mike Slidery as well. Great job on the pod. 40-minute segment. The kid's killing it on the podcast. Listen to that full thing. It is gravy. So for the guys, I'm Joey. We'll see you in week 8. We have 2 nights next week. Big deal. Monday and Tuesday night is all week 8 next week, as the playoffs are now 2 games away. We'll see you next week from InSports.